Celine sits by the bed, absorbed in reading and deep in thought. While reading the book, Celine thinks, so that's how it is. She discovers information about holy water, which could alleviate the symptoms of the curse. It has been 2 days since I rescued the young stranger, but he is still unconscious. Her worry for his condition grows with each passing day. Nutrition and injections don't seem enough. Celine realizes that something more effective is needed. Entering the room, the doctor says to Celine, "It's a congenital curse." These words weigh heavily on her as the curse has been a part of the boy since birth. It's simply terrible. The heroine realizes how much the boy must have suffered. She decides not to give up. Despite his tough fate, she will be the one to set things right. The doctor interrupts Celine, who is lost in thought, warning her that the prolonged state could become life-threatening. Looking at the sleeping boy, Celine reflects on his hardships but decides to fight for his life. She realizes that because of the curse, the townspeople despise the boy, seeing him only as a threat, not a child. The father enters the room, reproachfully saying, "Bringing in a cursed orphan, what were you thinking?" His concern is more about the consequences than the boy himself. Celine anxiously apologizes for her decision, saying she couldn't leave the child behind. The father calmly responds that the boy will be sent to an orphanage. Celine shouts that the boy can't go to the orphanage. They won't be able to care for him there. Her eyes are filled with determination. She is ready to fight for his protection. The man, puzzled, asks why she's so desperately trying to save a stranger. He doesn't understand her motivation. Clenching her small fists, her face tense, she remains silent, wrestling with her emotions. She reflects on the connection she feels with the boy, a bond she cannot ignore because she sees herself in him from her previous life. Memories of her past, of illness and loneliness, when even her own family left her. Celine's resolve strengthens. She mentally tells herself that the boy should not endure the same loneliness. The father allows his daughter to make her own decision, slightly smirking. She promises to take care of the boy herself. Behind the door, the maids discuss Celine's actions, surprised that she brought a cursed orphan from the forest. Celine overhears these conversations but firmly decides to ignore them and save the boy, despite others' disdain. The heroine recalls when she brought the boy home. "Since the day I brought this boy, everyone has grown even colder toward me," her gaze filled with sadness. She slaps her cheeks to shake off her dark thoughts. "Don't take it personally. Don't take it personally." Her childlike determination grows stronger. Holding her plump cheeks, she thinks, "Whatever happens, I can now focus on treating him with holy water." Her face expresses firm resolve to act. In another part of the room, the heroine examines her clothes. "All right, let's see. This one's better, right? Though this one's not bad either," she muses, choosing her outfits. Carefully examining the accessories, she decides that 2 sets of jewelry will be enough. "Sell everything in this pile, please," she firmly instructs the servants, pointing to a massive heap of clothes. The servants, stunned by her words, can't believe their ears. "Everything, you say?" one of them asks, her hands covering her mouth in shock. Smiling, Celine replies, "Yes, do it as soon as possible, and I want you to buy holy water with the proceeds." One of the maids voices her guess. "I suppose the water is for treating the cursed boy?" Another maid finds such thoughts strange and asks in surprise, "Huh?" Celine hands a dress to the maid, lifting it slightly with a smile. "Yes, that's the one," confirming her choice. The maid, bowing, responds, "As you wish." Thinking about the holy water, Celine recalls its appearance, how it shimmers as if declaring its own value. "As far as I know, holy water is a very rare and expensive commodity," she thinks, gazing at this wonder with admiration. She lowers her head thoughtfully. "Since I told my father there would be no burdens, I can't ask for money." Her face frowns slightly, realizing the impossibility of seeking help. But suddenly, her eyes fill with determination, and the corners of her lips curl into a sly smile. "That wouldn't be in the style of the old Celine," she notes to herself. "But by spending on the holy water, I'm getting rid of unnecessary hoarding. Killing 2 birds with 1 stone," she thinks proudly, with a touch of humor. The boy stirs slightly, moaning quietly in pain before falling still again. Checking his temperature and changing the compress, she notices that he has a high fever. Holding his hand and gazing at him with a sorrowful expression, Celine pleads with him, "Just hang on until I get the holy water." After speaking to the boy, Celine takes a bowl of water, ready to carry it away. The girl confidently walks down the corridor, carrying the bowl of water. Her thoughts are filled with determination. "Everyone despises his curse," she muses, sighing sadly, "so I have to manage everything on my own, no matter the cost." Celine encounters Adele in the corridor with the maids. With concern, Adele asks, "Sister, did something happen?" Carrying the bowl to the kitchen, Celine responds with a light tease. I have a little business in the kitchen. Adele looks at Celine with mild surprise and confusion. Are you really taking care of that sick boy you brought home a few days ago? In response, Celine nods shyly and answers, yes. Not expecting such an answer, her younger sister stands there, astonished. I understand now. It's hard to imagine the old me taking on such a task. Her thoughts are filled with self-irony, and she smiles faintly. Everyone would think I'm up to something. After walking a bit further, Celine smiles and says, all right, see you later. Adele stands there, deep in thought, her face reflecting both concern and confusion. Upon seeing Celine, the cook, slightly confused, points to the necessary item. The ice is over here. Thanking the cook for the ice with a grateful smile, Celine says gently, thank you, I'll just take a little. Her face beams with happiness. Celine smiles brightly and says, thank you so much. Her mood is light, and she holds the dish filled with ice. The cook and maid look at the heroine with slight astonishment. As she looks at the bowl of ice water, she thinks to herself, this is harder than I thought. She realizes the bowl is heavier than she expected. She feels a flicker of dissatisfaction with her condition. This body has so much fat and no muscle. Suddenly, someone takes the bowl from her hands, surprising her. It turns out to be the sweet maid, Jay. Jay says firmly, I'll carry it. Celine is flustered and a bit embarrassed. Thank you, but she's unsure but clearly touched by the attention and care. Smiling, the maid replies, it's fine, you wouldn't guess, but I'm actually pretty strong. Her mood is playful and positive. Celine recalls the conversation she recently overheard. The maids were discussing how people can change, and one of them struck Celine as kind. I think that girl's name is Jenna, Celine thinks, smiling softly in response to her positivity. The shy little Celine blushes and says, you can put it here, thank you again. The maid, still smiling, replies, no, let me keep helping you. Aren't you afraid of the curse? Celine asks Jay with concern, her face serious, clearly worried about the possible threat. The maid smiles slightly. Afraid? Of what? It's not contagious. Her calmness leaves the heroine puzzled. Celine watches from a distance as the maid says, I need to change the sheets too. Her caring nature knows no bounds as she continues her work. Thank you, Celine says with a sweet smile, feeling a bit embarrassed. In her thoughts, she muses, Jenna is definitely a really good girl, she thinks with admiration. Jenna, folding the sheets, says, if you need anything else, call me anytime. Celine responds gratefully, I'm truly very thankful. Oh my, says Celine. It feels like I made a friend. I've never felt such happiness before. Her heart is filled with warm feelings. Turning towards the bottles of blue liquid, she sees them glowing faintly. Her thoughts are pierced by a question. Is this the holy water? Taking the holy water in her hands, Celine examines it closely. The maid begins to speak. The purchase was made at the temple, so you can be sure of its quality. The girl looks at the small bottle of holy water, holding it in her hand. I didn't think I'd be able to buy this much, but the most important thing is to give it to him now. The girl thanks the maid for her help, slightly embarrassed as she clasps her hands together at her chest. In response, she hears a cool, it's nothing. It's already night outside, and our young heroine, holding the bottle, approaches the boy to give him the holy water. After pouring in 3 bottles, she sighs with relief and says, it's done. Standing by the bed and looking at the young boy, she prays to God, please let him get better. After a long day on her feet, exhausted, she lets out a cute yawn. Reflecting, Celine says, I've been spending so much time taking care of him lately that I didn't realize how tired I've become. It's time to get some sleep. Sitting next to the sick boy and closing her little eyes, she drifts off into the world of dreams. But just then, the boy begins to show signs of life, his fingers moving slightly. This doesn't go unnoticed, and our little heroine starts to open her sleepy eyes. Rubbing her eyes with her hands, she looks at the boy. She sees that he has regained consciousness and is sitting up in bed, staring at her with a confused expression. Celine begins to speak calmly, but then, overjoyed, she jumps up and exclaims, thank goodness you woke up. She reaches out to touch him, but he pulls his hand away from her. Celine is startled, the pain evident in her voice as she utters in confusion, The boy, vulnerable yet aggressive, looks at Celine. Oh God, I understand now, Celine thought. He's endured all his suffering alone. No wonder he's so wary. If I were in his place, I'd be the same way. Reaching out her hands toward the boy, she apologizes for scaring him and introduces herself. My name is Celine. When I was walking near the forest, I found you by the tree and brought you here for medical help. The boy listens to her warily, watching her closely. Celine continues, explaining that to help him, she had to acquire holy water, and it took 3 bottles to lift the curse. It seems to have worked. shocked. I don't intend to hurt you. There's food here, and this room is all yours while you recover. Rest easy, and don't worry, no one else will come in. I'll make sure of it. I'll come back later and bring you dinner. With a sweet smile on her face, she bids the boy farewell. See you later. After leaving the room and standing by the door, Celine, feeling confused, thinks, I've never seen such a cold stare before. I don't want to force him into anything, but I just wish he'd open up, even a little. I've worked so hard. After a moment of reflection and feeling inspired by the boy's recovery, Celine steps away from the door thinking, anyway, I'm just glad the holy water helped and that he's awake. With a bright smile on her face, Celine cheerfully exclaims, Good morning, the weather is so lovely today. She tries to lift the spirits of the boy she rescued. Sitting on the edge of the bed, he silently and indifferently watches the little heroine. Celine happily walks over to the window and says, A little breeze feels nice, so I'll open the window a bit. She wants to fill the room with fresh air. It's been 3 days since the boy woke up, but he still hasn't touched any food. With a sad expression, her thoughts are, I tried eating in front of him to show that the food wasn't poisoned, but it didn't help. Her heart aches with worry for his health. But taking the tray in her hands and replacing her sadness with a smile, Celine invites the boy. Let's have breakfast. The boy sits on the bed while the heroine, facing him, looks a little disheartened. She says, You refused again? He does not respond, nor does he turn to face her. Not losing hope, the young savior says, I'll leave this here, and if you change your mind, please eat. She tries not to pressure him. Leaving the room with determination in her eyes, she thinks, I mustn't give up. After picking some flowers during lunch, Celine decides to bring them to the boy's room. Did you know that flowers can help you relax and lift your mood? But the boy still doesn't respond to her. The sun sets and evening falls. Entering the boy's room and leaving him fresh clothes, sweet Celine gently suggests he change into them. The next day, the heroine, with a small, shy smile, tries to start a conversation, but the boy remains distant and silent. She tries again and again, then leaves with a gentle, I'll see you tomorrow, good night. He still shows no reaction or response. Taking some food from the kitchen, Celine decides to bring it to him again, looking sad and downhearted. He didn't eat today either. Entering the kitchen, Celine apologizes to the cook, saying, I'm sorry that your efforts went unappreciated and in vain. The cook, startled, nervously replies, Oh, it's nothing. Don't worry about it. Jay, the maid, tries to cheer up the heroine with a broad smile. When he gets hungry, he'll definitely eat. Celine, a little embarrassed, thanks her for the encouragement, hoping for the best. As she leaves, Celine turns back and asks them to prepare food again for the next day. The cook and maid watch the little heroine as she leaves. Lying in bed, Celine sighs in disappointment, lost in thought. With a sad and tired expression, Celine realizes her strength is fading and her motivation is slowly slipping away, despite all her efforts. Maybe it's all for nothing, thinks the little heroine. Lying on her back, she shakes her head resolutely and says to herself, I can't give up. Her heart fills with determination once more. She knows she has to keep trying. Celine lies in bed, her eyes weary and a little sad. She reflects on how loneliness consumes and makes life dull. With a heavy heart, Celine closes her eyes and falls asleep, feeling sadness wash over her. After waking up and tidying herself, Celine once again takes some food from the cook and brings it to the boy. Smiling brightly, she says, Today I made a soup that's easy to digest and very nutritious. Her genuine joy is visible on her face as she invites him, Would you like to try some? The boy stares silently, his eyes filled with hidden emotions. He just looks, without saying a word, as if lost in deep personal thoughts. Her mind fills with anxiety. What should I do? If I can't do anything, fear and worry overwhelm her. The girl smiles and offers a spoonful of soup. Here, try it. It's good, isn't it? She says. But the ungrateful boy continues to ignore Celine, showing no response. As the little sweet savior reached out to him with the spoon, sitting by the window, he swatted the spoon out of her hand. Celine looks at him. Her eyes are wide open, filled with shock and hurt. Without retaliating, Celine apologizes softly, clasping her hands together. Her gaze is sincere, full of regret. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to force you. With tears in her eyes, Celine looks at the boy and quietly says, I'll clean this up. He stares at Celine, a mix of either anger or confusion on his face. Celine's eyes fill with tears as she covers her face, trying to hold back the flow of emotions. What should I do? Why can't I stop these tears? Her despair breaks through. Running out of the room, she says, Sorry, something got in my eye, covering her face with her hand as she flees. The ungrateful boy sits emotionlessly, staring ahead as the day slowly turns into night. Waking up in the middle of the night from hunger, the boy decides to search for food. The boy clutches his chest, his face twisted in pain. He quietly groans. Slowly holding his stomach and leaning against the wall, he moves through the corridor. But then he hears voices. Peeking around the corner, he observes two maids and eavesdrops on their conversation. What is Lady Celine really trying to achieve? Their confusion and suspicions spark his curiosity to learn more. Unaware of his presence, the maids continue their conversation. One of them says, hiding an orphan and taking care of him without receiving any gratitude. It's just crazy. The other replies, she bought holy water with the money from selling her clothes and jewelry. I wonder how many of our salaries she spent on that. Surprised and shocked, the boy listens as one of the maids remarks, to think she did all of this just to help that boy. The maids continue talking, and the dark-haired one says she doesn't feel any sympathy for Celine, while the other responds that she finds such behavior hard to believe. She continues, maybe Jenna is right, that people can change. Listening to the maid's conversation, the boy is lost in thought and no longer hears what they are saying. After reflecting on everything he heard, he decides to return to his room. Walking down the corridor, Celine reflects on what happened yesterday, thinking, oh dear, I really messed up. First, I forced him to eat, and then I even started crying. All right, pull yourself together, she thinks. I'll just knock on the door and apologize. With a cheerful smile, Celine bursts into the room, once again holding a tray of food. Her energetic, good morning, fills the room with light and warmth. Lowering her head, she sweetly apologizes to the boy for yesterday's events. With surprise and joy, she notices that the boy has changed into clean clothes. Thank you. She places the bowl of soup on the table. I brought breakfast. If you want, please eat. Her kindness shines through in every movement. Sweet Celine is truly thoughtful. She smiles gently, her eyes sparkling with happiness. The boy looks off to the side, appearing slightly tired. I think it's better if I leave, Celine thinks, smiling, but sadness fills her thoughts. She decides to leave him alone, so she won't intrude. The boy reaches toward the table, his fingers carefully moving toward the fresh bread and soup. Celine's eyes widen, expressing surprise and slight bewilderment. The boy cautiously tries the food. He seems to like it, though he doesn't show it openly, and slowly starts eating. Overjoyed, Celine tears up, wiping away tears of happiness as she thanks him. In a friendly and warm atmosphere, sweet Celine sits and watches as the boy eats, feeling very happy and content. Returning to the kitchen with the empty dishes, smiling and nearly shouting, she exclaims, sure, it was only 5 spoonfuls, but that's progress. The faces of the gathered servants are filled with genuine joy. Words of thanks and relief sound like a long-awaited victory. Thank goodness! The young lady smiles, her face glowing with gratitude. She modestly expresses her appreciation, adding, I hope I can continue to rely on you. 2 of the servants respond with warm smiles. One of them says, of course. The servants continue discussing ideas for making the food easier to eat, exchanging opinions, and offering different approaches. Seeing the interest from Jay and the cook, Celine stands with a gentle smile, holding back a bit of excitement, though her eyes shine with hope. In a lavish dining room sit Adele, Celine, their father, and mother. The room exudes a sense of peace and warmth. Seated at the table, Celine eagerly enjoys her meal, savoring every bite. Celine's parents watch her, unsure how to start a conversation about the young boy she rescued and has been caring for. I want to discuss the orphan, but Celine, beaming, interrupts to share that the boy ate some soup and even a piece of bread. Her face shines with pride. After that first meal, the boy started gradually gaining weight and looking healthier. Her heart rejoices, seeing him grow stronger, even with a slight fullness returning to his cheeks. Celine sits and muses aloud, he's still so thin. I'd love to share some of my fat with him. She smiles with sweet innocence, expressing her concern for his health. With a gentle smile, Celine says tenderly, he needs to become even more energetic. She is genuinely happy to see his health improving. Her father listens attentively, contemplating her words. Then, with a slight smile, he responds, I see. He addresses his daughter again, noting why she doesn't use her pocket money. Celine replies that she doesn't feel the need, as there's nothing she particularly wants. Her father mentions that there will soon be a reception in the royal garden for which they're expecting an invitation. He adds that they should start preparing for the event. Celine is surprised to hear about the garden reception. She admits it's the first she's heard of it. Adele, looking intrigued, asks, Celine, what will you wear? Slightly taken aback, Celine replies that she isn't sure yet. Celine smiles sweetly, confident that the first outfit she chooses will surely suit Adele. She looks at her with her beautiful violet eyes. Adele gazes at her with a slight expression of surprise, her mouth slightly open. I'd love to pick out a dress for Adele, Celine says, then suddenly realizes she said it aloud. Covering her mouth, her eyes wide widen with shock and embarrassment. Did I say that out loud? Celine apologizes and asks them to forget what she said, but Adele jumps up, pleading with her. Adele continues to insist, asking her dear sister to pick out a dress for her. Their mother and father are shocked by what they hear. Celine is surprised and wonders, is this a dream? She reflects on her past behavior as the real Celine and is amazed by the current turn of events. The girls, overwhelmed with joy and mutual support, hold each other's hands, both beaming with happiness. Celine squeezes her hands together, filled with a sense of joy. A wave of happiness surges within her. With a little shyness and agreement, they plan their next outing for the following week, seeming to grow closer with the anticipation. Entering the boy's room, Celine is overjoyed to see that his plates are completely empty. She excitedly announces that she's planning to go shopping with her younger sister, as if this idea fills her with energy. With a strong sense of determination, she decides to stick to a strict diet so as not to disappoint Adele. Celine notices that maybe due to caring for the boy, she's lost a bit of weight herself. Her thoughts about these personal changes bring a slight blush to her cheeks. She eagerly suggests buying something for the boy that he might like. Her thoughtfulness is clear, but the boy remains silent, as if lost in thought. Celine thinks about different toys, imagining what might make him happy. But I don't really know what to get him, she thinks, feeling a bit disappointed. With a smile and a hint of bashfulness, she asks if she could know his name. Suddenly, a thought strikes her. What if he doesn't even have a name? Her face freezes in slight shock. She begins to speak but stumbles over her words. The boy responds, saying his name is Will. Surprised, Celine can hardly believe it and asks, "Your name is Will? May I call you that?" With joyful shouts, the young lady says, "Will, what a beautiful name." Clapping her hands and beaming, Celine thanks him and says she'll call him by his name from now on. Will watches her silently, his gaze full of mystery and questions. In the cozy, warm atmosphere, she's filled with happiness, hoping they'll grow even closer. Holding a teacup with a thoughtful expression, Louis appears distant, lost in his thoughts. 3 sealed letters lay neatly on the table before him, seeming to hold important news. A servant, slightly nervous, asks, "Master Louis, what are you thinking about?" "So Miss Celine is also planning to attend my event?" he asks, as if already expecting the answer. The servant, a bit uncertain, replies, "Even if she weren't invited, she'd still come." A nervous smile crosses his face. "I suppose that's true," the young man replies. Louis recalls Celine with a radiant smile, sincerely apologizing. "Sorry if I disturbed you before. From now on, I'll behave differently and won't bother you," she said. The prince examines a letter carefully, reading its contents. A bright shop, luxurious dresses and outfits. Celine and Adele are in an opulent store in the city. Standing in the middle of the shop, Celine joyfully compliments Adele, saying how wonderful the outfit looks on her. Adele, blushing, says thank you, her cheeks tinged with a rosy hue. Celine continues to praise Adele and how beautiful she looks in the dress. They spend a long time picking out outfits together. Caught up in shopping, Celine seems to go a bit wild, buying dress after dress. I've been saving my pocket money for this moment. Reveling in their purchases and trying on outfits, the girls almost forget what they came for until Adele reminds them. Adele shyly asks Celine if she can pick out a dress for her. Celine enthusiastically agrees. Afterward, they enjoy tea while waiting for their purchases to be loaded onto the carriage, which is now almost full. Hugging a large bag with a delighted smile, Celine says, "Today's trip brought me so much joy. I even bought clothes and toys for Will." 20. Sitting in the carriage with Adele, Celine thanks her for a wonderful day, which surprises Adele. Celine continues, saying how much she enjoyed herself and was glad to have time to talk. Overjoyed, Adele moves closer, reducing the distance between them. Adele, a little shy, looks down as if processing the day's events, tightly clenching her small fists as tears fall on them. Her friend watches her anxiously, not knowing how to comfort her. "Adele, what's wrong? Are you hurt?" Celine asks worriedly, seeing her sister cry. Celine glances away, blushing slightly, as Adele stammers out her words, her voice mixed with emotion but sincere. "I'm just happy." It seems she's trying to handle her emotions. With a gentle smile and flushed cheeks, Adele says she was happy to spend the day together. Celine, moved to tears, confesses that she always dreamed of such a friendship. Her gaze reflects both pain and joy, as though a long-held dream has come true. The girls embrace, apologizing to each other through their tears. This embrace is filled with hope for a new beginning and acceptance of one another. Celine recalls a hazy memory. Celine and Adele as children. Despite the teasing, Adele always longed for friendship and forgiveness. Thinking about the past, she sighs heavily. Celine and Adele finally understand each other. Embracing and crying, they forgive everything that's happened. Their friendship is now genuinely strong. Celine holds Adele's hand, feeling warmth and support. For her, it's a sign of commitment. From now on, she'll always be by her side and will try not to make mistakes again. With determination, she looks forward, a thought firmly in her mind. From now on, Adele will be my top priority, she thinks, holding Adele's hand tightly. With a gentle smile on her face, she says she'll try to be a good sister. Entering the bright room, Celine beams with joy over getting closer to her sister. Today was a wonderful day, she says to Will. With a glowing smile, she tells him that she bought lots of gifts, hoping to bring him happiness. Among the gifts are clothes, carefully chosen. Any outfit would suit you? You're so cute, she thinks, selecting the most beautiful items to please him and make him happy. She explains that the treats are chosen specifically to help him recover and gain strength. There's also a plush bear and toys. Her choices, though she admits she doesn't know much about what boys like. The boy, sitting on the bed, looks at the pile of gifts with slight embarrassment. It's clear he isn't used to this level of attention. She apologizes, admitting she might have overdone it, her desire to bring him happiness and joy being so strong. Will looks at her thoughtfully, his face calm with a hint of surprise. His hand unconsciously clutches the edge of his clothes as if he's unsure how to respond to her kindness, yet feels a connection and fondness. He quietly thanks her, surprising Celine and even making her heart skip a beat. Glowing with happiness, she replies with a smile, "You're welcome, I just want you to be happy." She adds that he can try on the clothes when he's feeling stronger and encourages him to enjoy the sweets, warning him not to overindulge. Finally, she cheerfully suggests they play with the toys together, her eyes shining with hope for their time together. Overjoyed, Celine says that today truly was a happy day, hoping that more days like this await her. Time passes, and a whole month goes by in the kingdom. A maid carefully brushes her lady's long hair. This scene highlights their close relationship. With a smile, the maid announces she has finished her work. Celine, her eyes full of gratitude, gently thanks her maid Jay, showing her appreciation. She now has her own personal maid, the sweet Jenna. The previous maid left due to the high standards, and the position remained vacant for some time. This brings back a memory in which the heroine seems a little dissatisfied with the situation. Her father advises her to choose someone to assist her, foreseeing the need for a maid. This advice becomes an important moment in her decision to choose Jenna. Jenna is cheerful, kind, and resourceful. The heroine notes that Jenna was the best choice. Jenna notices the changes in her lady and happily remarks on her slender figure. Celine replies that she recently changed her diet. "Oh, I remember how plump I used to be. A lot has changed, and I've become slimmer. But there's still a way to go to perfection, so I must keep going." With a smile on her lips but slightly embarrassed, the heroine thinks about how much more graceful her younger companion looks. Her inner shyness adds warmth to her natural modesty, enhancing the joyful moment. Talking with her maid and friend, Celine says she's off to see Will. Walking down the luxurious corridors, Celine unexpectedly meets her mother and Adele, her face showing surprise. Upon seeing Celine, Adele joyfully calls out, "Good morning, my beloved sister." With a smile on her face and joy in her heart, Celine reciprocates warmly. Three lovely ladies sit around an elegant table covered with exquisite treats. They enjoy their morning together, chatting about upcoming plans and creating a cozy, harmonious atmosphere. Celine feels relieved that her younger companion no longer fears her. A gentle smile on her face reflects her inner peace and quiet joy. Adele playfully suggests spending time together making sweets. Celine eagerly agrees, looking forward to the moment when they'll create something sweet and joyful together. The girls say their goodbyes and go their separate ways. In a spacious, bright room where sunlight softly illuminates the space, the heroine laughs and peeks into Will's room, her face shining with curiosity and a joyful mood. Now sitting sweetly, Will reads a book, and upon noticing Celine, he wishes her a good morning. Approaching him and patting his head, Celine tells him that she admires his dedication to studying so early in the morning. Sitting at the table with Will, Celine reflects on how quickly he has regained his health and begun eating well. Sometimes he still gets a fever, but now he can go about his daily activities. But the most important thing is that he started talking to me. Wandering through her memories, she recalls the first time Will called her by name. Tears flowed from her eyes. Of course, this cutie hasn't told me about his past yet, but he has no trouble with everyday conversation, despite his limited knowledge. He must have lived with someone until a certain age. Celine is teaching Will. Lately, she's been substituting as his teacher, helping him with grammar and history. Will sincerely thanks his young teacher. With a gentle look, Celine gazes at him, thinking about how sweet he is. He's a good boy, diligent, and eager to learn. I also find it endearing how he follows me around like a little chick. Thinking about all this, Will has become such an important person to me, almost like a little brother. Of course, there are still some who are cold toward him in this household, but there are others he can befriend. Since I mended my relationship with Adele, the servants seem less fearful and distant. I hope I can help Will enough so that he can live independently one day. Will, the sky is clear today, not a cloud in sight, and it's warm outside. How about a walk? Celine reaches out her small, gentle hand to Will. They hold hands and step outside together. Walking hand in hand through the forest, Celine asks if he's feeling okay or if he's tired. Will replies in his usual way, no. Walking around a tree, she sees a large cluster of mushrooms and exclaims, wow, look at these huge mushrooms. There are so many. Will stops her, saying she shouldn't eat them because they can cause a stomachache. Surprised, she asks how he knows that. He explains that when he was starving and had nothing else to eat, he tried them. Continuing the conversation, they talk about love. Celine mentions that she hopes to meet her own prince someday, someone meant just for her. Will repeats, a prince? Interrupting him, Celine says, oh, by the way, I won't be able to visit you tomorrow from morning until evening, so be a good boy and wait for me with Jenna, okay? Will asks, why? She explains that there's a royal reception at the castle, and she's sure everyone will be admiring the lovely Adele. Do you like Adele? Will asks. Of course. I adore her. Adele is my top priority. So that's how it is. Cheerful and happy. She says goodbye to Will, promising to see him soon. Will watches her leave, but after a moment, he feels a pain in his chest. The day of the garden reception has arrived. Celine is radiant with joy, slightly startling Adele. You're absolutely lovely, Adele. You know you're the prettiest in the whole world. Sister, you're very beautiful too, Adele responds. Thanks to being reborn as Celine, I can now attend such events. Though knowing her history, I'm sure people will have the worst things to say about me. Girls greet Adele warmly, addressing her, it's been so long. I've been waiting for this meeting. Noticing Celine nearby, they can't help but murmur, is that really? Not letting them finish, Celine interrupts them, saying, nice to see you, but then pauses to think. After all, she is Celine, who used to order everyone around and play pranks. Everyone starts whispering, wow, that's Lady Celine. Best not to cross paths with her. She's quick to point out people's flaws, one says. Another agrees. Yeah, she won't hesitate to show your faults right away. A girl whispers, oh, I hadn't even noticed her before. It's as if her whole demeanor has changed. Another adds, oh my gosh, you're right. I wonder if Lady Adele feels okay about this. Slightly saddened, Sweet Celine thinks, it's not so bad that they hate me. No one will say it openly, though, because of my status. But I'd hate for Adele to be embarrassed because of me, so it's better if I just stand alone somewhere. Sister, calls Adele. Adele rushes up and embraces Celine, creating a sweet and gentle atmosphere around them. The crowd's astonishment is boundless. Everyone is shocked, knowing who Celine is. Hugging Celine, Adele joyfully says, I'm so happy. I'm glad I could come with you, sister. Tears streaming down her face, Celine realizes that dear Adele is trying to protect her and show her in the best light. She's so kind. But they're interrupted by a figure approaching them, sparking their curiosity.